Well, yeah, I know I'm late to the party, but I'm here now doing this, so that's all that matters. So let's get the show rolling. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boom Tube. My name is Patrick Feliciano, and today we're going to talk about X-Men Apocalypse. This is the newest X-Men film from 20th Century Fox, starring Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, and what I'm going to say about this right off the bat is I'm going to give a spoiler warning. This is just, I'm not going to give a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you probably shouldn't watch this, or if you just enjoy spoilers and you don't care, you can watch this if you feel like so. I actually really liked this movie. Surprisingly, I enjoyed it a lot, and I feel like I'm in the minority for that movie. I don't understand why it's getting so much hate. Rotten Tomatoes, it's like the critics hate it so much that it's like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 75% from the audience, which I never really follow that anyways. But I am, first off, I'm going to talk about the things I probably had gripes with it, just to get that out of the way. Is the opening scene of the movie. It's the origin of Apocalypse himself. It takes place in ancient Egypt. It pretty much explains how he becomes the way he is now. And how he always had four horsemen with him and everything like that. And it's a cool scene for explaining to people who don't really know about the character. But I also felt like it was almost unnecessary. I felt like the special effects weren't up to par as much as I was expecting. So it kind of pulled me out at times and it seemed too much. The other thing that bugged me about the movie, and this is nothing against her, I actually enjoy Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's a good actress. I like Jennifer Lawrence. I just don't like what they're doing with her as Mystique. She doesn't make me feel like she's Mystique, and in this movie, she almost seemed like she was phoning it in. I hated the fact that they just kept showing her face all the time, even at times when she didn't have to show her face as Jennifer Lawrence, when she could have just been Mystique. You know, mutant and proud, like all that jazz, but they don't really do that in this movie. There's a moment where she gets kidnapped by Stryker, and she's with all these other mutants, and she wakes up after being unconscious, and she's Mystique. She's all blue and everything, but then when she wakes up, she turns back into Jennifer Lawrence, and you're like, why did she do that? That's unnecessary. There are some inconsistencies within the movie. This has a lot to do with First Class and Days of Future Past. They kind of go back and forth from those two movies into this movie, tying them in. And even some like parts from the first X-Men movie where it shows like Magneto's origin and everything like that. They pull a lot from the old films into this movie, which is cool. But at the same time, you also look at it and go, wait, that's inconsistent. Like there's a moment in this movie where James McAvoy as Professor X explains that he erased Moira's memory completely of her ever meeting him whatsoever. So she doesn't even remember meeting him at all. But in First Class, at the end of the film, the government is questioning her, saying, do you know where he went? Do you know what happened to him or anything like that? What happened on the island? And her memory was erased of that. And they're saying, so he just has the power to just do that, just erase your memory like that? And she goes, I guess, I don't know. But so she still remembers meeting Professor X. But then why in this movie does she not remember meeting him at all? And another part was the fact that at the end of Days of Future Past, it shows Wolverine being found in the bottom of the ocean, and when he's pulled up by Stryker, Stryker then says, I'll take it from here, turns around and his eyes flash yellow, and it's Mystique, and you're like, oh, so what's going to happen with that? Is he not going to get his claws? But in this movie, he's taken by Stryker and he's turned into the Weapon X, which I'll get into later, but yeah, there's that. So you're kind of like, they don't explain that at all in the movie. Like, how did Mystique then get taken out of the picture, and how did Stryker then get put back into the picture, and how did he develop Wolverine into the Weapon X? It's just strange. Like, the little things like that. It's a nitpick, but it's another thing that the X movies have always had problems with, is slight inconsistencies with the films. But what I did like about the movie, and this is another thing I'm probably going to be the minority in this, is the fact that a lot of people hate this character, and they hated what they did with this character, and they're comparing him to Ivan Ooze in the Power Rangers movie and crap like that, but I actually liked Apocalypse. I thought he was good for this movie. I thought he was actually a very compelling villain. I think he was more compelling than some of the other Marvel films have ever done with their villains. I think he actually had some depth to him, and you understood his motivations. and you knew where he was coming from, and you really believed that he is God, and that we are actually supposed to follow him because he has an idea for how the world should be, and we've lost our way. And he pulled it off well. His makeup is a little distracting. It's not as up to par as you would think it would be. It's not as amazing as you would think. His prosthetics is obvious prosthetics. It does kind of remind me of Ivan News at times, but you have to think about this. Even with all that makeup on his face and covering up his face with such thick layers of makeup, Oscar Isaac is doing an incredible acting job just with his eyes, and that's what it's really coming from. A lot of his acting is done with his eyes, and that's a hard thing to do. That shows the caliber of an actor right there. And you can pull off emotion just from the eyes. Some people are also complaining that the fact that he's not as big and menacing as you would expect Apocalypse to be. And for me, I don't think that's actually a big deal. I think what they were trying to do with the character is they're trying to take such a gigantic, fantastical character as Apocalypse, and they're trying to ground him in a world of reality where you can sort of believe he could live amongst humans, because in the end, he was taking over bodies of other humans or other mutants. This has so much drama. I love Civil War. I thought Civil War was a great movie. It had a great balance of everything. Great action, great drama, great story, great acting, everything like that. The cinematography was great. But I actually thought emotionally, this movie tugged at my heartstrings a lot more than Civil War. Yeah, there's dramatic moments in Civil War, but this movie made me actually tear up and cry, especially when it comes to Magneto's storyline. Everything that Michael Fassbender did in this movie was just brilliant. He was fantastic in this movie. And it gave Magneto even more layers to him and depth than any of the other X-Men characters in this franchise. I thought he did it brilliantly. And the scene with his family getting killed in front of him was just so saddening that you really feel like, okay, now I understand why he probably turned to the side of Apocalypse, because he's just so torn down. Even when he tries to live a normal life and try to be normal and be like, okay, maybe Charles is right, maybe I could live amongst them, it still goes terrible, and he just feels like maybe this is just what I'm destined to be, and I just want to eradicate all of it. This movie is definitely more character driven, which I actually found it to be more refreshing than some other superhero movies. People usually think when a superhero movie comes out, it's a big blockbuster because it's an action movie and it's always got to be about fighting and bang, boom, pow, all that stuff, which is, yeah, a given because it's superheroes. But the thing, someone like me or other comic book fans enjoy about these characters and about these movies is the fact that these characters do have such amazing stories behind them. The intro to new characters was great as well. Quicksilver has more screen time in this movie. They show a little bit of Jubilee, but not much, which I don't really have a problem with. They show Angel a little bit. I was a little disappointed about that because he actually has a great story arc in the comic books, but especially as Archangel. But they pretty much turned him into the muscle in this. But, I thought everyone served a purpose in this movie. Everyone met their purpose, and I thought everything was great. The new Jean Grey is awesome. I can't wait to see what else she does with this character, because I thought she actually pulled off Jean Grey perfectly. Cyclops was really good too. Everyone was casted greatly in this movie. And the other thing I loved about this movie that I think this is extremely overlooked, it's way more comic book like than any of the other X-Men movies. Straight up, you have this movie is straight out of the comic books. The origins of the characters are a little more closer to the comic books. They have the costumes that are looking more comic book like. They have Weapon X in the movie. That's a thing I thought I'd never see in the X-Men movies. When they're at the island and they're trying to escape and they open up the cage and they say it's some kind of monster, some kind of guy who's just animal-like now. Inside I'm like, oh, please tell me it's Weapon X. Please tell me it's Weapon X. And when he comes out of the cage and you see the claws and he has that freaking Weapon X helmet on his head, I want to freak out. I was like, oh my god. And they even called him Weapon X. I was like, oh my god, they're calling him Weapon X. I can tell what they're trying to do with this new story arc now that Days of Future Past happens. The storylines have changed. And because of that, now you have Deadpool, actual Deadpool. And now you have Colossus that looks like normal Colossus. You have Wolverine with a Weapon X origin. That's really cool. Nightcrawler is actually going to be with the X-Men now. You have characters like Quicksilver in this. And then, of course, you even have the Phoenix Saga. Like, Jean Grey at the end of this movie tries to fight, like, he's gonna fight Apocalypse after he's been beating down Charles Xavier, and Charles is like, help me, Jean, unleash the power. And what does she do? She goes full Phoenix Force, and you're like, holy crap, they actually did it, that's awesome. I see what they're trying to do. They're really trying to do it for the fans. They're trying to actually do true service with these characters, and I appreciate that a lot. What I hope for the future with this now, after seeing this, it made me really excited for the future. I know a lot of people are like, it's the end of this, but I really hope it's not. Like, this movie cannot be the end of this franchise, because now I see that this has a lot of potential. I see what they're trying to do with it, and I think they need to expand upon it even more, because now, with this new whole story arc with these characters, like, I can't wait to see what they do with them. Like, I can't wait to see what they do with Wolverine. Now that his origin is a little more close to the comic books, are we going to see Logan in an actual Wolverine suit? And at the end of this movie, there's an after scene credit, which lots of people were freaking confused about. But when I saw it, I was like, that's kind of interesting. It shows Essex Corp. The government is coming in, and they're taking Wolverine's DNA, the Weapon X DNA, and they're going to use it to make the X projects, where they're trying to make other X creations. And that's where, like, X-23 comes in and stuff like that. But that government agency also has Sinister in it. So does that mean Sinister's going to come to play? And I know that in First Class, Kevin Bacon's character, that's actually Sinister. So is Kevin Bacon going to come back from the dead as Sinister? And is he going to be a part of this? And is he going to be in the Wolverine movie, or is he going to be in the next X movie? I don't know. It gets me excited. It makes me go, I think they're actually trying to do something close to what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is trying to do, and that's bring in the comic books into the... Is the next step the Phoenix Saga? Because with the third X-Men movie, we were all extremely disappointed with the representation of the Phoenix Saga. It wasn't the Phoenix Saga. It was just a huge letdown, and it wasn't what we were expecting. And now with this, it's like, it makes me think, Bryan Singer always seemed like he was leading up to that moment, so are they actually going to do that now? And are they going to do it justice? It is a great addition to this X-Men cinematic world. I think they really have a handle on it now. At least it seems like that to me, personally. It's my own opinion. I don't really rate things, so if I had to rate this movie, I guess it'd be like 10 jillion Krabobbles. I don't know. It's a cool movie. You should go see it. I think it's worth seeing in the theaters, at least. You know, you should go see it in the theaters. So that's it. So, have you seen the movie? If so, what did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe. I don't give a crap. Do whatever you want. Just watch it. I don't care. But go see this movie. Seriously, it's a great movie. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My name is Patrick, and I'll see you next time on the Boob Tube. Have a good one.